questions to ask, right? A campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on even deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch along, still the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South, they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes, guys, welcome back to TACT, the show where we took you through all the tactics about Crystal Palace, and we'll also talk to you about how the tactics of the opposition team could affect us. Normally, I'm joined here with just Dan, but I'm joined here with Rich as well. So, Rich, how are you doing?
All good, all good, all good. Got a little tactics board ready as well, so you know, can't match these lot with their websites and the online graphics and stuff. It's hard to like buy the starter pack.
My normal co-host Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, all good. Still smiling from Saturday. Still happy. And I'm looking forward to making the trek up to Leeds on Sunday.
100%. Are we going to see a match day vlog from you?
Yeah, I can maybe put a little one together, or at least give my thoughts on. Yeah, why not?
Cool. Yeah, so we are playing against Leeds United. Currently, as of recording, they are playing against Nottingham Forest, and currently they are 1-1. So if they score, we will probably tell you guys, and sort of in a weird way, we're going to be sort of analysing how they play on the spot, because this is the most recent game, and we'll see how they play, because most likely they're going to replicate that in the upcoming game against us. So we'll go into the predicted 11s. I will show my screen first with our new layout here. So here are my two predicted 11s. So for Palace, I've gone Gaeta in goal with Mitchell, Gay, Anderson and Ward in the defensive line, with Chet Decore playing as the only 6 in their team, with Schlupp and Eze playing as 8s, with Ayew on the left wing, Elise on the right wing, with Edouard through the middle. Have we got any alternative 11s that you guys would like to play?
I think that one would probably be the main one. The only other ones that I would find acceptable from Roy would be maybe if Edouard played on the left and Mateta played up front and Ayew started on the bench. That I think would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Or alternatively, another alternative is maybe Schlupp on the left and then Lokonga in the middle, or Hughes. That would also be acceptable. I'll be happy with any of those variations, to be honest.
100%. Rich?
I've decided on change of formation. I feel, I mean, now that you've mentioned that, I think he actually should really start. But I've decided to go 4-4-2 for this one. So BG in goal. Ward, stick with Ward. And I don't like changing the back line too often, so that's the only reason why I big up the ring light. Obviously, Anderson, Gay, and Mitchell. I've gone Elisa on the right, Check and Schlupp in the middle, or Hughes, by the way, it could be either. Ebbs on the left, and with JP and Edward up front. I just think we need a bit of physicality, especially if we're going to play on the break, which most likely be how we set up.
Okay, cool. Obviously, what Dan said of changing Ayew for putting Ayew onto the bench, putting Mateta up top and Edouard out wide, that could work as well. But I think I said it to Dan just as we were in the back, that if we've got all our forwards on the bench and we're chasing the game, we don't really have anyone to bring on to score a goal or to have goal threat. And even though we know Mateta's not really got much goal threat, he still managed to score for us to get us the winner when coming off the bench. Looking at Leeds' team, I've literally just looked at what they're playing now, and this is their team. So they've got Meslier in goal with Firpo, Struck, Kosh, and Ayling in defence, with Rucker, McKennie, and Aronson in midfield, with Harrison left, Bamford through the middle, and Sinistera. Something that was quite big that I've just noticed is that Gnotto is back. He was on the bench right now, currently. So I don't know how that guy's back, but they've got Gnotto on the bench. They've got Somerville. They've still got some good players. I think one standout is definitely Weston McKennie, purely because he's played 4 games for Leeds and he's got 4 yellow cards. So if he gets a yellow in this Forest game, this will automatically change to Christiansen or someone like that. So, Dan, do you want to talk us through us actually attacking them?
Yeah, right. Let's go for it. So share screen, just one. So, yes, this is how I think it will go, and there are several things that I noticed that they do. So, actually, I'm going to go to the other one because I think that'll make more sense. So I've got an attacking one I've saved. I'm actually prepared today for once. So generally, what I noticed what Leeds do is that they seem to drop into a 4-4-2. So let's just bring these back just a little bit quickly, just so you can see. So they tend, even though they do start in this 4-2-3-1, they actually seem to go back into like a 4-4-2, which is quite a trendy thing that a lot of teams seem to do these days. But it seems to be like a 4-4-2 with the 2 defensive mids playing in the centre. And then the wingers. So in this case, that might be that'd be Sinistera, and this would be Jack Harrison. They'll form the kind of like defensive wingers, I guess. And then up front, you'll have the attacking midfielder. So in this case, this would probably be Aronson. And this would be every Crystal Palace fan's favourite player, Patrick Bamford. Now, I think there are some exploits that we can do with this. First things first, these 2 don't really tend to defend. So Bamford definitely doesn't. I don't know whether that's because Gracie has told him not to, or if that's just because he can't. He doesn't defend. Aronson is a bit more lively. So, for example, if the ball is over here, let's say, I don't know, Eze's got the ball here. Eze's got the ball here, he'll tend to come over here to try and sort of shield this area, and so on. And then it's exactly the same on the reverse side of the pitch. So, I don't know, let's say Schlupp's got it there. Same thing. Bamford might come over, but I don't think he really does anything. I think it'll be more Aronson coming over. And then again, just kind of forming like a barrier to make it hard to get past. Now, the way that they work as well, the way these defensive wingers, I guess, if I don't really know the words to them, there's an exploit that we can do with them. So because they're tasked with defending this side, for example, what will happen is that let's say IU makes a run into here. Okay, the fullback's covering him. Now, what will happen if they make an overlap? So let's say that Tyron Mitchell makes an overlap into here. He's not going to be left alone. 11's going to come back here and stay on him. So effectively, they're man marking both of those players. But what that does mean is that one of our players here that likes to get forward like this, they've got all of this space now to operate. So all of this space over here, they've now got all of that to operate in. Okay, the 4 might come over and meet them and stuff like that. And then Aronson might come over and you might have this situation here. I'm going to talk about this particular situation in a sec. But generally speaking, they've got a decent amount of space to work in, because at the same time they want to cover this space because it's the penalty box. But then, yeah, so that's one thing you can do. And from this position, what I would do, because these players have been marked, they're being man marked, what I would do is try to get overloads into this box. So whoever that is, let's say that they're all in here like that, like this. I would try and ping some passes out into that like this, just some little crosses into the box like that, for someone to try and get in the end of. And it doesn't have to be the 8 either. I think last week at Leicester we saw our centre backs getting quite high. So let's reverse it and say it's on this side. So let's say Eze's on this roll here. I don't know, Elise's over here. Ward has made an overlap, which is probably something that won't happen. But Ward has
he done it, to be fair.
He did, to be fair. Vieira ball. And then let's say that Eze's made the run in instead. We could have, say, Anderson coming in and making this cross instead, which I know he did a couple of times against Leicester. I don't think that's something that would be too ridiculous to see. That could be one possibility. But another thing as well is that because they do this, they tend to defend quite narrow. So they tend to defend quite narrow like this. So what that means is that when you do have the ball in this place, let's say it's just like this, just for argument's sake, it's over here like this. If one of our players drops off, so let's say it's who's that? I don't know, Lukonga or Hughes. So let's say, I don't know, Anderson's got the ball over here. What one of our players can do is drop off here. Maybe let's say it's IE, drop off here. You've got this, because Leeds aren't naturally any team defending are like this, but generally speaking, you won't, like, your players won't be over like this, because that just leaves too much for space here for you to exploit. So they'll try and tuck in and play narrow, so that by the time this ball gets over there, theoretically, they'll be, they'll come over and they'll come and meet you and whatever. But if we time it right, if we get them far enough over, and then we have, say, Anderson pinging that ball over, then we've got some space to work in, and perhaps our player can get a 1v1, Jordan Ayew on a 1v1 against their fullback. And on this side is Luke Ayling. And when I checked Twitter when Nottingham Forest scored, quite a lot of Leeds fans were quite unhappy with Luke Ayling. And I think that is certainly something that we can do. And JC pointed out before we came on there that Junior Firpo is also quite weak on this side as well. So this is something that we can certainly exploit by switching the sides quickly, and then giving our players a 1v1, so then they can try and cross it, maybe do a low crossing and so on and so forth. And that's generally what I found with attacking.
Yeah. So let me pull up my one. So when looking at how they play, they do defend very deep, as Dan has said there. They'll become very compact. The centre backs will tighten up. The full backs will come in and they will sit in that 4-4-2. However, looking at one thing that is very important from a Palace perspective, let me move us into positions where our players would take up. Looking off of what happened in the last game. So we'd sort of be in this sort of position. And something, I know it's Arsenal that they were playing against, but one thing that I did notice, that 3 of Arsenal's 4 goals were scored on the back post. We know that Dan's literally just been talking about their fullbacks, but being physical with the fullbacks and running at the fullbacks is slightly different as well. For example, Granit Xhaka scored a header against Ayling. I'm pretty sure Martinelli tore up Ayling, hit a nice cross in, and the other, I think Saka came in, Jesus came in straight through the middle. The centre-backs parted a little bit. Very easy goals to concede, and it was all coming from the fullback and Struck. Because one thing we have to remember is Struck is a left back. He's not actually a proper centre back, which he's currently playing in that position now. As we remember, as under Jesse Marsh, he had a little purple patch where he was scoring some really good goals from left back. So, for example, if IU does have the ball out here, let me get the ball. I forgot the ball again. Yeah, we forget the ball out in Eagle-eyed football. So if IU's got space here, we know IU's not gifted with pace or anything like that, but he is very good with the ball at his feet. So if he can get a yard or maybe a little bit of space away from Ayling, if he can cross this ball, let me get my curved line to make it look nicer. If IU can get this ball off, Kosh will have to come out here because if he's getting space from Ayling, he's going to need support because we all know Ayling's not that good, as Dan has said. Their fans aren't really too pleased, and that will mean that McKennie will have to come in. They are currently defending in sort of a back five-ish because McKennie is dropping in to stop Morgan Gibbs White from playmaking. He's sort of playing as a second striker right now. So that's taking the pressure off of these guys. And if they know that this cross is coming in, you've got Edouard coming in. He's up against someone who's not really a centre back on both sides. If he misses the ball, Elise is even on the slightly further post as well. But one thing this does leave us with is if Schlupp and Eze are brave, that's the main thing here. If they're brave, they will be on the edge of the box and they'll have free space. We done it a few times against Leicester. They didn't press us when we had the ball on the edge of their box, and Eze had a few chances where he just swung his foot at it and nearly scored, didn't they? So the way to beat them is fast build-up play and being very clinical with our crossing, because normally we don't score that many cross goals, but we have to be very clinical because even though they haven't got the best fullbacks, their wingers do defend very well. It's sort of like they've got Andros Townsend playing on the wing, but in defence. So they are very compact. We have to hit them on the break, but that's something that we both do very similarly. They like to hit us on the break. They would happily sit in, stay compact, and break fast. So as we're in the attack, we cannot commit too much forwards because if we do, we leave ourselves exposed. For example, Joel Ward, not the fastest guy in the world, really. Anderson, not the fastest guy in the world. Looking at how Hodgson had him set up when we was at the other end of the field, he was literally standing on Daka. So if we deploy that same tactic, we're going to get found out here because Leicester didn't have very many pacey players. However, Leeds have got an abundance of it. Bamford's not the fastest guy in the world. We all know that. Harrison's not the fastest guy in the world. We know that. However, Aronson is very fast. Sinistera is very fast. McKennie, when he gets forwards, is very fast. Firpo, even though he's not the best fullback in the world, is also very fast. So we need to be very careful and we need to keep our shape when attacking so that if we do concede a breakaway, we need to be on it and we need to press them. Another thing when defending against them, before we really go into them defensively that much, they have a lot of dribblers. The main one here is Aronson. If you don't press him, he will literally dribble through your whole team. He nearly scored against us at Sellers Park doing exactly that. So we need to stand in front of him, body check him, make it so he doesn't have a clear route towards the goal. But also, we need to cut off passing lanes. But we'll talk about that in the defensive phase. Rich, what are you saying about us in the attacking phase?
About with this tactics board at the moment. So, there we. I think our biggest joy is going to come on the flanks. Now, the reason I say that, just obviously watching Leeds play from time to time, their fullbacks gamble. They go get really high up the field, and defensively they're not great at all. So that's where we're going to get our best joy. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to be brave. So, this is obviously how they. About this. This is kind of like their setup. All right, we're at the. All right. Hold on, let me see if I can move this camera down. There we go. All right. Now, obviously, when we're going forward, the key is to somehow isolate the fullbacks either side. But in order to do that, we're going to have to utilise our fullbacks as well, because Ayling guaranteed, like I said, Ayling, he's going to bomb forward in the attacking phase, and so will Firpo. So on the we're going to have to break very quickly, and we're going to have to use our fullbacks to be able to isolate the wingers as well. Because if we can get the wingers tracking back our fullbacks, that's going to help our wingers have a 1v1. Because what we don't want them to do, as JC said, because their wingers defend really well. We don't want Kleiny back here, and then Elise having a 2v1. That's going to cause us a big problem. So that's where I think we're going to have our biggest joy. I don't think there's going to be much joy in the middle of the park. I think we might end up cancelling each other out in the middle of the park. And also, like, I won't be surprised if Edward's isolated. Same with Bamford. So their joy is going to have to literally come for Edward. It's just dropping deep and linking play and stuff. He may not necessarily get many touches in the box. Drop off, link up play, get the ball out wide and isolate 1v1 and get himself into the box. So, yeah, the key, attack the fullbacks.
100%. I think one thing that I neglected to say when doing my attacking phase, one thing I saw in the Leicester game, me and Dan have been crying out for, is supporting runs. And I think a prime example of that was when Hughes ran through to give Ayew the free space to come inside and then assist for the Mateta goal. That's something we just have been missing under Vieira. For example, that whole game, the ball would ping out to Elise, Eze would instantly make the run through. Even if Elise came straight back toward, the run was there. He took the fullback away.
Oh, Leeds. Sinisterra.
2-1.
Yeah, I haven't got there yet on my stream, but so the ball would go out to.
I'm going to literally say, if you don't mind, and that's why I've said that fullbacks. So on the defensive phase, I know we haven't got there yet, but Sinisterra's picked up the ball from Firpo, and Firpo's tucked in here. So that's where Firpo is, and such. And Sinisterra cuts in and has a shot. And that's what I mean when their fullbacks get nice and high. It's something that we need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. So
it's a great way.
I can't even remember what I was saying. I think I said Eze will pass the ball out to Elise. Eze would instantly make the run. Take the midfielder with him. Take the centre back with him. Take their mind off of Edward, who is in the middle. He stretched the defenders. All of a sudden, if that one centre back's wide, Edward is the first man in front of goal. The centre back's behind him. He was goal side. Same thing for the midfield. If Jokore steps up, he will have lots of free space in the middle. Just a supporting run will help us out so much against these guys specifically. If they are, as you say, if Firpo is coming inside, is gambling inside, if we nick the ball, we run forwards and we make supporting runs, we're going to have a massive overload, and it's going to be very difficult for them to pick up more players, even though we're outnumbered them in their half of the pitch. So that is an extremely important way that we need to break away. We need to make sure that if Ayling overlaps, we have to switch on. We have to use our pace. We have to try and score really quickly, because if we get down the other end of the pitch and do what we normally do, where we slow everything down and try and walk it into the net, they're going to get back. And to be fair, they have got some good defenders in that team, so they will nick the ball. So we have to score before they get back. So that's the attacking phase. Dan, how do we stop them from scoring?
So I'm going to quote a great philosopher, Michael Owen. And the way we stop them scoring is by stopping and putting it in the net. No, seriously. Right. So I think one thing we could do is, similarly to Leicester, when they've got the ball up here. So let's say, so they do something similar to like what we, to be honest, a lot of teams do this these days. When they're having a goal kick, Meslier, who I neglected to say statistically is a terrible shot stopper. So if we can have as many shots as we can, that'd be brilliant. But let's say he's got the ball, right? What we can do is similar to what we did to Leicester and force the ball to the fullbacks. So you do that. The way you do that, whatever else, that's the wrong way around. So let's say Bam's over here, blah blah blah, like this, like that. So let's say Mellier's got the ball. He's going to pass to either here or to Struck. So let's say he passes to Koch. These Rocker might drop, but generally you want Edouard to kind of stand here. The reason why that is because it makes it hard for Koch to pass here or pass here. So you're effectively getting rid of two. Now, what you want to do is you want Ayew to stand off a little bit. You don't want him to be man marking Ayling, but you do want Schlupp to be on this side. So what it looks like, unless he wants to try a really brave pass to Sinistera, his only option really is to Ayling. Now, when Ayling's got the ball, that plays into our hands because then all Edouard needs to do is just cover this over here. Schlupp, again, similar, just cover that. Ayew's just got to cover that. And then the great thing about doing it with the fullbacks is that you effectively turn the touchline into another defender. Because if you think if Ayling goes on that over that line, we get the ball. So using the touchline as effectively another defender or whatever, that forces him to just hoof it long, because I don't think he in particular is particularly good on the ball. Firpo, I'm not 100% sure myself, but if we can limit them to these kind of things, I think that's a good thing. Because yes, even though Aronson's quick, Aronson's probably isn't going to be running off the back line like Bamford is. And I think if it's Gay versus Bamford, I think there is only one winner in this particular scenario. So that's what I would do. Now, like you said, they tend to break quite quickly. So I thought if we can slow them down up the pitch, so then we can set into our defensive ways, I think that would be a good course of action. I think trying to win the ball here isn't a priority, but if we can slow them down so that we can get into this position here, then I think that's going to benefit us. When they do get over here, so let's say that they do, because what I notice they like to do is they like to get to the byline under Gracia, and they like to cut it. They like to try and cut it back. So let's just say they're all here. They're all here. Now, how could we combat this? So let's say he's gotten past Ward. I like Firpo's over here. He's covered by him. What we need to do is we effectively need to cut out the we need to cut out the cutback, right? So where's the cutback going to go? So obviously they're going to be preoccupied with these guys. I don't know, maybe McKennie's over here or something like that. We need to make sure that when we get into this position, our players don't get sucked too far in. So what we don't want is like Decore to be there, for example, and then you got McKennie on the edge of the box, and then you got Harrison cutting it back. That's what we don't want. So how do we combat that? I think there's two ways to do it. Either you could have it so that whoever the midfielder is, so on this side it's Eze, we got Eze covering here, so that if there was a cutback, it would have to be a high cutback, and then maybe that ends up over here, therefore. Or we could just have it so we make sure that Decore's marking that extra person in the box or whatever, and so on and so forth. Personally, I think having this is a better idea, because then Decore's free to either choose to kind of stand where he wants rather than man marking someone. Whereas if you have Eze here or whoever the midfielder is on that side, you are blocking that passing lane. So theoretically, hopefully, Eze should win the ball there. And then we go, I don't know, then Edouard peels off and then so on and so forth. And then that's it. That's how I think we should defend. I think under Roy, we've got very good defensive principles. And to be honest, I think even under Vieira, I think we also had very good defensive principles as well. So I don't, the attacking side of it, I'm less worried about as long as we keep doing the things that we're doing.
Yeah, I think that Dan's hit the nail on the head there when it comes to them running it down to the byline and cutting it back, because I think that's how they scored a lot of their goals this season. Also because they break so quickly, they are left with a lot of 1v1s with the keeper. So obviously there's not really much that we can do about that other than maybe say in hindsight, maybe have a slightly less high line than what we played against Leicester. But one thing I definitely did see with them cutting back is that if it's ever in the air, it very often does seem to go over the player, go over the defender, and it will land on a slightly further out player. But that is a kind of area where they will shoot from. They are a team to shoot from very, I guess, unexpected angles, which they have scored from this season. I think against Wolves in one of their goals, I'm pretty sure Christiansen was standing like near enough one of the posts and he still shot from there. And you're thinking they're shooting from unconventional angles to catch the goalkeeper off guard. And I think that's one thing that we need to be very wary of as well. You may be defending, the defender may pull back to cut off the passing lane, but by pulling back, you're giving them that unconventional shooting angle, which this Leeds team will take. Because Gracie has been telling them, I'm sure, if you see the goal, just shoot. And they have been. They've been clocking up some pretty impressive shooting numbers, pretty impressive shot on target numbers. So whoever plays against Leeds, the keeper's always going to be busy. We've seen this against Forest already. They are shooting from very unconventional angles and it's catching him off guard. So just being aware of and being quick to that second ball is going to be very important in this game to stop them from building momentum. I think if you let them build momentum, they're going to walk all over us. They've got the players to do it. So being very switched on, being ready. Gaeta's going to have a very busy game in the net. So that's where I stand on the defensive phase of the game. I don't think much else apart from what Michael Owen says. Just don't let them score, really. Rich, what are you saying?
Right, defensively, we have to be very aware. I'm just basing this off what I'm seeing at this moment against Forest. Now, it could be the fact that Forest are defending poorly, or it could be the fact that Leeds are just a bit more tactically more astute. And that's it. Now, I had mentioned, obviously, I know what in there. I mentioned obviously Sinisterra at the moment, so he would have Klein occupied, and obviously Furpo will like to tuck in as well. But what I've noticed in this game is Harrison. Sorry, he leads his wing, and he's literally coming over to create an overload and such. And I think they're trying to do it on both sides, where they're willing to have that gamble. And this is probably the reason why Ayling starts bombing up the field, because Harrison vacates his wide berth and stuff. So it's something that we just need to be aware of defensively, because our fullbacks aren't the greatest anyway, especially going forward. But like when it's 1v1, they're very susceptible. So we need to be mindful that, you know, those third man runs. And this is where I think for them, Bamford, as much as I don't, let me not speak before he plays before goal against us, but he may not be the most prolific of strikers, but what his job is important. It's similar to like us with Ayu, in the sense of he works well, he can link play well, but other than that, there's nothing else to it. He literally just keeps peeling off and such. And we
Would you
just,
say as him playing as a striker, he sort of plays more as a second striker, sort
yeah.
of like more like a centre forward?
So he will literally drop here. Now, I won't be surprised if he does that to distract the Corey, which could potentially have a midfielder, whether, like you said, McKennie, Rocker, whoever it is, to try and get in behind and such, because that him dropping into that's the half space, I think Dan calls him. Him dropping in here could cause us problems if we're not aware of. But I do think Gay especially would be smart enough to follow it, you know, and hopefully that's the case. Now, what we'd have to be careful of is if he does drop into that space and Gay does follow him and Harrison stays wide, you've got that out to in run.
Yeah.
There. I know it's all glitching.
Yeah.
And stuff. But and that's where he could end up, and that will be a terrible position defensively for us. So yeah, as long as we're tracking our runs, defensively we might be okay. And I agree. It's either we've got to make a decision. We either press like we did against Leicester, or we just play on the counter. We can't do both.
Yeah. Do you think that if we press like we did against Leicester, they have more quality to play through the press compared to what Leicester could do to us?
You know what? It kind of depends on how we do it. You know, because Firpo for me is better on the ball than Ayling is. So the
Brighton
key
are
will
1-0 up, by the way.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Leicester Villa drawing as well.
yeah.
The key to it will be setting a trap. We have to somehow. We're gonna have to somehow make sure that Ayling's the one with the ball. But in doing so, this tactic was such a great invention. I need to figure out how to readjust.
Why don't you try holding it the other way around?
I think this would be.
Like, hold it up, down. Maybe. Like, move your head to the side and hold it up and down like that.
What, like portrait?
Yeah. So then you can pull it back a bit and then lay it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Good show.
There you go.
Right, so the key will be to allow Ayling to get the ball. In order to do that, Edward's going to have to. I reckon Edward's going to have to get really touch tight to. I believe that will be. It's on the left hand side, don't we? Struck. Yeah. So if we get all our players back up, because I think they'll get more joy if they get the ball to Firpo than if they do get it to Ayling. Everywhere else, I think we can cover. But the key will be allowing Cock to have the ball and such, and hoping that we can get the ball in here. Now, it will require, as much as Edward's going to start off on Strook's side, it needs to be a case where he can, once Cock's got the ball, he can still press and force him. So he's literally, his running press is there to block off the pass back to Cock. So that would only force it to go to Ayling and such. And then if we could get it to Ayling there and then hit the press, can we win it there? That's going to be
defend from the front.
Yeah, if we are going to go for the press. If we play a counter-attacking style of football, I just say give Anderson the ball and just hit diags. Hit the channel as quickly as possible. So,
100%.
Nice.
I feel like we've covered everything. Boys, is there anything else you'd like to touch on before this game?
Not really. Normally I would give some stats, but I didn't today. Yeah.
What was that, Dan?
I would say normally I'll give some stats, but it's hard to when Gracie's only have 5 Premier League games to actually implement his style.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that made it hard for us when doing for me personally, when doing my research today, because I was really struggling when looking at how they played statistically, because I think he's still in that process of finding what his best 11 really is.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I think one thing to obviously mention as well. I know we have mentioned it, but they are playing tonight. So how many
They're going to
days
be
is
a
that?
lot more tired than we are because we've got a whole week's rest.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, you don't want to bank on that, but it's something else I think to take into account.
Yeah, it's the little wins that add up to make hopefully to make a result.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, but to be fair, Leeds are playing well right now and they're running really hard, so this could be a fitness factor that comes into it. But what we have to remember also, that these guys, most of them were Bielsa players, and they have a fitness level which is unheard of. So I don't think we can bank on that fitness element too much. But guys, otherwise,
well, they were in, but the pass was terrible.
but yeah, other than that, score predictions. What are we thinking? You guys are probably gonna talk about it a bit more on the preview, but I'm not gonna be there. So let's go through some score predictions now. I'll start with Dan. I'll throw him under the bus.
I don't do predictions, so you know this.
Oh, well, in that case, then Rich, I'll throw you under the bus.
I have no idea. I'm going 2-2.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 0-0.
I thought you don't predict.
Yeah, but I thought, why not?
I think, bearing in mind how they're playing right now, they're looking good. Their defensive shape right now is more 5 at the back than 4 at the back, so he's still getting used to it. I think, obviously, if someone's trying to find out their best 11, you're always going to have to expect the unknown as well. So he could play something completely rogue that we've not practiced for. We don't know how to set up against. I think purely on the element of surprise, I'm going to probably say 1-1. I'd probably take a draw against Leeds away because any away point in this run is going to be massive for us.
100%.
Yeah, I'll say 1-1. But yeah, boys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Rich. And as always, this will be out on the Wednesday at 7:30. Look out for the preview. I think look out for Friday, where I have got our first player story coming out of Wilfred Zaha's story. And yeah, as always, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you turn on that post notification bell, because I see that only 30% of our subscribers are actually watching. There's 70% of you guys that aren't subscribed that are watching. So we see you. But as always, like, share, subscribe. This is me from Eagle Eyed Football. That is Statman Dan. That is Man Like Rich.
Oh, he's been practicing.
As always, up the palace.
Eagles!